Hello, hello. Who do we have here so far? Hello, King Ding. Okay. Okay, so we're just gonna wait just a few minutes before we start, letting people arrive. So who's this King Ding? Are you from our Discord, or are you a follower from Twitter, or what? All right. I'll just give us a few minutes, and I'll probably save yours for last because there's a lot to unwrap. All right, so I'm just gonna start up with the most important theme for the questions that I keep getting is managing expectations, and it comes in different forms. So one of the forms is encountering the murder hobo player, and you can't expect everyone to be a role player. You can't expect everybody to be interested in role play in all your games. Sometimes you find players who are interested more into the combat aspect of the game, and it might not be the same for you, but they find it very enjoyable. So you have to find balance between your type of gaming and their type of gaming. يعلق ولا ايش؟ عامر يعلق يعلق شغال تمام؟
لا انا وقفت هنا عشان التويتش اسرع. شغلت انا اثنين.
All right. All right, so because I'm just checking the stream is going well. All right, so being a murder hobo is not a problem in itself. It's the aspects of one player trying to sabotage the game for the others, and usually they don't intend to ruin the fun for everyone. It's just they want to smash things. So as a DM, you have to give them a few opportunities. If you're a heavy roleplay game, you have to give this player an opportunity to smash. But at the same time, you have to sit down with them and explain to them your style of play. And this is why it's important to have session zero. Session zero is basically the pre-game, the pre-campaign, telling everyone what to expect from a game with you as a dungeon master. And they in turn tell you what they want to have in their game. So if you have any rules or expectations or limitations for the game, that should be the time. You can't mid-campaign start telling people, no, this is not how I want to play. It's going to be more difficult to manage at that point. So sit down with your players. Even if you've been now already playing for a while, just sit down, tell them what you want in your game, and hear from them what they want, and try to find the middle ground between both of you. So if you're a heavy role player and one of the players is a more combat oriented, try to give them opportunities to do both. Another question I got was consequences, which again, to the murder hobo, it's one of the most frustrating thing to do. Again, make sure to give them a clear image of how the game is going to be working. You can't give them consequences if you didn't tell them there will be some. And depending on the situation, you can figure out proper consequences for what happened. For example, if one of the player decide to steal, just roll a dice, see if anybody notice. Even if they didn't notice immediately, maybe after some time, the owner of this gem realized it's missing, and then they would hire a detective or investigator to go look for it. One way or another, they're gonna find the players. So that can be a form of consequences that can be in line with the story. But just make sure that the limitations that, okay, I don't want you to be evil, has to be very clear from the start. If you as a dungeon master can't manage it, they have to know that and they have to accept that. Another form of consequences comes to things that happen between players. Sometimes the players decide to be evil between each other, which is fine if they understand this is just a game and it doesn't affect the players themselves. This is only between the characters. I remember Colville made a really good video on that. I'll post it after the video in the doobly-doo. I always want to say that. But when it comes to playing an evil character, there is a reason why in Adventure League you're only allowed to play a lawful evil character. It's the closest thing that you can manage as an evil person without ruining the game for everyone else. Because if you're not lawful, how are you loyal to the group? How are you going to withstand working with other people who contradict your values or your beliefs? What stops you from stealing from them? And then again, how could they trust you and travel with you? So this is a really important thing that you have to keep in mind, especially as a player. If you want to be an evil character, what kind of evil you want to do? Does it contradict the morale of the group? Is it going to ruin the fun for the group? Maybe it's fun for you to steal something, but your friend is not going to enjoy it. So you have to manage your own expectation as well. Let's see now what else we got here. If anybody wants to post any question, feel free to do so. I can see the chat. So somebody is asking me if I ever ran D&D in Arabic, and yes, I did. I ran Lost Mines of Phandelver from start to end, all in Arabic language. It needed a lot of preparation because the language was not available in Arabic, meaning the game mechanics, the rules, and the character sheets. So I had to do a lot of prep for my players, and a couple of them didn't speak English at all. So I had to translate the character sheets, I had to translate the rules, the mechanics, I had to change a few character names to make it seem more naturally Arabic game. So if anybody wants whatever I use, whatever tools I use for the Arabic Lost Minds of Phandelver, hit me on Twitter and I'll send you some links and some files. Alright, so creating a good D&D villain that can adapt to players' unpredictable nature. Oh boy. I mean, unpredictable nature is going to be so hard to even put in a template. So you shouldn't really focus too much on the unpredictability because you can't predict it. So find a good story that you think the players will enjoy. And if you made a good villain for a story and the players didn't follow that plot, that's fine. Just put it aside. Make a new good villain that is appropriate for the story they are following. And for making final boss fights feel legendary, it really depends on the level and whether or not you're going to use a published adventure or your own homebrew. So if you're just going to take any monster, you simply can give them a legendary action and your players are going to lose their minds thinking that this creature is OP. You can give a goblin a legendary action and he's going to seem so OP they're going to lose their minds. And the rules for legendary actions and adding them are already there in the monster manual. But you can simply say, you can give them one legendary action point. Have them, for example, a Goblin King would command one of his followers to make an attack, or they themselves would attack. So you can find something to use your legendary action with. And if you have any question for that, I can just set up something and make some notes and make another dedicated video for that. Farasani, you're asking about spellcasting, but I don't know what exactly you need me to explain. So until Farasani gives me more details on his question, how to make out of combat play more fun and interesting. So for me, combat itself is the least interesting part. So if you as a DM prefer the combat and you're trying to give your players more out of combat opportunities, it's very easy and simple. It's always remember the three pillars of the game. We have combat, fighting, and we have the social pillar, which is the role play with the characters and the NPCs and all the talk. And we have the exploration part. So let's say the players would go into a small calm village. You can start with the exploration part. You can tell them the places and locations, what they see around this the village, the old torn down building at the end of the road. That could be interesting. Or maybe somebody crossing the street and just stops and throws up. Maybe that would give one of the players maybe an opportunity to go and approach this person if you want to create a role play opportunity. And it's also a good chance to give the players an idea of what's going on in this village. Just introduce them to some NPCs and they'll be fine. Don't worry too much. Okay. Spell casting. Yeah, I think I'll probably need a whole video to talk about spell casting. All right, Swanfire is asking about my favorite monster. I'm easily distracted. Like if I go through the monster manual, I'm gonna stop every 2 pages like, oh my god, this monster's so awesome. Do I have it here? Yeah. I can't get enough of this. I can't get enough of this. But it depends on the game. I try to find a monster that is intellectual and they have a very unique personality. So for me, usually dragons are the most attractive ones for me. They tend to have desires and goals, and they want to accomplish something rather than passive need of survive as or simply guard something. So I even play with the stereotypes. When you would expect a chromatic dragon to be evil, I enjoy giving them a good nature. He was inspired once to make a blue dragon a king for dwarfs. I heard Mike Merles talking about this once, and it just drove me mad. This was amazing and brilliant. The match between the blue dragons nature and mentality and the lawful obedience of their monarch from the dwarves, they just match so well. Well, somebody's asking about this character is broken. I don't believe that one bit. If you bring a barbarian into a social situation with very low uh, with very low charisma, they're gonna be so underpowered. It's gonna be so much fun. In the end, every character, every class is made for a certain story and a certain role to fulfill. And that's why it's almost always we have a team of players, not just one player. So if the barbarian is slow on the charisma side, the bard or the warlock and the sorcerer might pick up the pace for them. Can online play be as fun as live play? Yes, absolutely yes. Amr, what do you think?
صراحة it depends for me. Both are fun, but live are more fun.
Live is always better because you can see your friends and sit down in one table. But we've played for a long time, for a while with Amr, and then we have a group of people all the way from Sweden, and I continued playing with them for over a year and a half. So it was a lot of fun, and we enjoyed it very much.
There's strange things happen. I played online as a bard, and for me, it was way much more fun. And I tried to play live as a bard. I couldn't. I found that when I play online, I can like prepare stuff, prepare songs, and write stuff, and it's super fun to play bard online. But I found it strange that I couldn't do it live. I don't know why.
Maybe you can easily search for stuff. If you get an inspiration, oh, I'm gonna look for this song lyrics, and you can just say it. So there's a lot of fun that can happen from online game because in the end, it's just hanging out with your players. The table format itself is not an issue. You can just sit down face to face, or you can sit down in front of the screen. As long as you get to hear each other, and if you're lucky, maybe see each other, it's gonna be a lot of fun. For me, I'm using Fantasy Grounds. A lot of people enjoy the Roll20, but for me, I'm Fantasy Grounds all the way. Fallen Paladins. What I think about them, it depends on the aspect of how you're gonna play. Is he or she repenting from the fall, or are they ongoing with the fall? Did they fall because they went against someone evil? Or did they fall because they became evil? So depending on the situation is gonna be different. So I role played once a paladin who was chosen to be a champion for one of the godlike beings, and in the end I broke off from the god that I was supposed to follow because I disagreed with them. It didn't really matter because for me I still followed the passion on the oath of fighting for the weak, and my paladin felt that the god that he was following kept pushing them to do unjust thing for those who are innocent. Easiest way to make a map. The easiest way is probably getting a pen and paper. But if you're gonna use it for online games, what was it called? Let me find the name correctly here. There's an app, you can find it on Steam. It's called Dungeon Painter Studio. Yeah, Dungeon Painter Studio. It's really easy. It's very cheap, and it's you can find a lot of assets to add on it. If you want a good one-shot, you should check out the Adventure League games. The Adventure League adventures are all just one-shots, but you can put them together to form a campaign. But you can just pick one and go with it. It's enough, and they're well written and they're really good adventures. You should check them out. I use them from time to time, even during homebrew and home games. Yeah, Elwinters is really good as well. But I spent so much time with Dungeon Painter, I just became comfortable. Thanks. Thanks, Super Beast. Well, I'm gonna take a few more questions before we end that stream. Does anyone else have any questions? Well, if this is your first time playing the game, I advise you to take a published adventure and just tweak on it. That's a good start for you to homebrew. Don't start from scratch. Don't just invent everything from the start. If this is your beginning, pick up a published adventure and just tweak on it. Lost Mines of Phandelver gives you a few opportunities to seed your own homebrew adventures, and they pointed out during the game. So I advise you to use that. And when I was playing Storm King Thunder, I got the inspiration for the homebrew from my players. One of my players decided he wants to pursue the books of Vile Darkness and Exalted Deeds, and from that we just went into a whole complete homebrew campaign and just merged it with the Storm King Thunder. So just wait for the opportunities to come through a published adventure and just try to learn step by step. Don't start from the scratch. Don't start from the beginning. Well, for one, unlike Roll20, this is just one-time price. You can get a subscription if you want, and you can try it with a subscription, or you can join a game with you only need the DM to have the ultimate license. You don't all of you need it. So if you want to tip together and just have the DM buy it, and you can split the cost between each other, or you can buy a monthly subscription like they do in Roll20. Fancy Ground have that option too. You might find it too expensive, but in my opinion it was worth every penny. I regret nothing, and I keep buying stuff for it all the time. So, Super Beast, you're asking about a sword and sorcery setting. I don't understand what you mean. Viva, it's very possible. A lot of stories came out of the games, and a lot of games came out of stories. There are a lot of websites. I can share some links in our Discord server and pin them somewhere. So just stay in the Discord, and before the end of the day, I'll compile a list for places you can find online group play. And there is a Discord channel for Fantasy Ground College. They would teach you everything that you need to know about Fantasy Grounds and how to play, how to create your own games and campaigns and import characters and so on. So it's a very good platform to find people and learn about the online gaming for D&D. All right, one last question. uh, Fireball is considered overpowered because it's very high damage, but I personally I don't find it so. Uh, because most of the NPCs, the monsters, they're more likely to have fire resistance than any other kind of resistance. So I don't know. Even Jeremy Crawford admitted a few times that it's a bit overpowered, but I don't see that at all. Actually, Forgotten Realms is not considered a high magic, maybe moderate magic. If you want high magic, maybe actually no, it is high magic. Oh, so much history in the game got messed up because of magic. Damn. I prefer low magic, but not low as in non-existent. Maybe the players are one of the players who's the spellcaster can be the only one and the only person who can do magic in this world. He's one of very few and very rare. It's going to be very interesting to roleplay how the NPCs get shocked and maybe even scared from a person who can use magic. The best way to introduce D&D to your friends without having them fear being committed, just do a one-shot. Just try the Lost Minds of Phandelver, the beginning part, when they deliver the cart to the city. Just the first chapter, that's going to be enough for 1 or 2 sessions. If they feel they want to commit, go on. If they don't, you can just wrap it up very easily. Just change a little bit in the story so they don't need to go on. Abdulility. Abdulity? Abdu. Do I introduce it? It depends on what kind you want to introduce. If you're talking about gender or the acts, it's just gonna have to happen naturally. Don't. If you need to introduce it, there's probably something wrong. All right, guys, that was fun. Thank you for your patience, and hopefully, I'll try to do something like this again. You can always hit me on Twitter. You can hit me on Discord. You're very welcome, Viva, and everybody who joined us today. Have a good evening, and have a lot of fun in your adventures.